One question that people usually ask, the Old Testament says that no one has seen God and lived. And how can Jesus be? I know, but people, I know, but those are people.
Nobody's seen
people
God.
ask.
Let me show you where God the Father and the Son were seen by Daniel in a vision by the Holy Spirit. Daniel 7, 9-10.
As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat.
So remember Ancient of Days. And he's seeing him seated. That means he's seeing the Ancient of Days in a visible shape, in a visible body, seated on a visible throne. And he describes what his head is like. Keep reading.
His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool.
So he even had hair, huh? So much for us bald people.
I know.
His throne was fiery flames. Its wheels were burning fire.
Notice at first he says he saw thrones, plural, but the Ancient of Days is seated on one throne, singular. But he saw more than one. The other throne is for who? In the same chapter, Daniel 7, 13-14, who else does he see?
I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days.
You see that, brother? They're not the same. Son of Man comes to the Ancient of Days. So he's not the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days is someone else. The Son of Man is someone else. And I see the Son of Man going to that Ancient of Days who has got white hair and a white robe. So he approaches him.
And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed.
So the other throne is for the Son of Man, because he's an eternal king with an eternal kingdom who reigns over all peoples and whom all nations must worship. So that's why he saw thrones. One for the Ancient of Days, the other for the Son of Man. According to the New Testament, Jesus is that Son of Man. How do we know? Because in Mark 14, 61-62, the high priest says, I adjure you by God, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? Jesus answered, I am, and you shall see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power, coming with the clouds of heaven. So Jesus just said, I'm that Son of Man Daniel saw. Well, if Jesus is the Son of Man, then who's the Ancient of Days? That's the Father. So here you have Daniel seeing the Father appear visibly and Jesus appearing visibly. Now I want to explain a little further so people don't get confused with what I'm saying. God by nature is bodiless, shapeless, formless. That means he exists when there was no space, no place. So by his very nature, he's bodiless, he's shapeless. In other words, there's nothing to see. He just is. But that God who created all shapes can appear in millions of shapes. So he can appear as fire. He can appear in a cloud. He can appear as an elderly person. He can appear as a dove. Because we're told in Luke 3:22, the Holy Spirit came down in bodily shape as a dove. But the Holy Spirit is not a bird. And he doesn't have a body of a bird. But he can assume a shape of a bird. Just like in Acts 2:1-4, the Holy Spirit appeared as tongues of fire.